You know those classic playground debates about who would win in a fight, like Superman versus Goku, or a lion versus a tiger? We love coming up with these impossible matchups. Now, imagine taking that kind of fun, that wild curiosity, and cranking it up to a level of insanity where the fate of an entire species is on the line. That's exactly what Record of Ragnarok is all about. The premise is ridiculously simple, and at the same time, absolutely brilliant. The gods have had enough of humanity and decide to wipe us out for good. But at the very last second, a Valkyrie steps in with a bold proposal, a one-on-one tournament, 13 gods versus 13 of the greatest humans in history. It's the ultimate version of those childhood who would win arguments, putting figures like Adam and Jack the Ripper up against Thor, Zeus, and Poseidon. No exaggeration, it's one of the most insane and genius concepts ever made for a battle anime. So today on the channel, Record of Ragnarok. Humanity's 7 million year history is about to be erased by its own creators, the gods. In Valhalla, a meeting is going down, like a universal board of directors, to decide our fate, and the mood is not good. Zeus, the big boss, asks if we deserve another 1,000 years of life, and the answer is a resounding no. Shiva and Aphrodite lead the chorus of complaints. Humanity has become a plague, filled the world with trash, deforested everything, and on top of that, drove a ton of animals to extinction. Basically, we can't get our act together. With all the gods in agreement, Zeus's gavel is about to fall and send everyone to oblivion. But then, out of nowhere, Brunhilde, one of the Valkyries, shows up to crash the party. She kicks the door in and says that simply erasing us would be boring. Instead, she proposes testing humanity with Ragnarok, a special clause hidden in the divine constitution. The rule is simple: 13 gods versus 13 humans in one-on-one fights. The first to 7 victories wins. If the gods win, we're done for. If the humans win, we get another 1,000 years of life. The gods burst out laughing, finding the idea ridiculous. To convince them, Brunhilde plays dirty and taunts them, saying they're scared to fight mere mortals. The provocation works. With their egos bruised, Zeus accepts the challenge. Ragnarok begins.
How very exciting, isn't it? Tell me, everyone, what do you think? Let's have a brawl between man and maker!
Heimdall, the master of ceremonies, announces the first match. On the god's side, the strongest Norse god, the god of thunder, Thor, and on the human side, the most insane warrior in Chinese history, Lu Bu. The two enter the arena, don't even bother putting up a guard, and simply walk toward each other like two gunslingers in a duel. Lu Bu attacks first, and Thor defends with his hammer, but the force of the blow is so great that the god is pushed back. The fight continues intensely. Thor recovers and attacks, but Lu Bu blocks. Seeing that this is serious, Thor decides to pull out the big guns. He uses electricity, holds the hammer with both hands, and prepares to use his ultimate technique. Odin's ravens comment that if he's going to use Thor's hammer on a human, it means Lu Bu has earned his respect. A quick flashback shows how this technique was born. An army of 66 frost giants invaded Asgard, and while everyone was panicking, a completely bored Thor went and annihilated them all by himself. Back in the arena, the gods already consider the fight won. Shiva even yawns. Thor unleashes the blow, and the impact is so absurd that it sends everyone flying. Gull, Brunhilde's little sister, starts to despair, but the Valkyrie tells her to stand up and watch history being made. When the dust settles, the surprise is revealed. Lu Bu not only survived, but he pushed back Thor's hammer and even managed to cut the god's chest. The god's jaws hit the floor. For a moment, the two warriors think they could have been friends if they had been born in the same era. A new flashback reveals Lu Bu's past. He was so ridiculously strong that he traveled all over China looking for a worthy opponent and found no one. Life lost its thrill. He became so bored that he allowed himself to be captured, as he no longer saw any point in living as the strongest. Back in the present, Zeus is shot. How could a human weapon injure a god and withstand Mjolnir? That's when he looks at Brunhilde and understands that there's something more going on. Before Ragnarok, Brunhilde already had a plan. She knew no human weapon could stand up to a divine one, so she summoned her 12 Valkyrie sisters to turn the tables. We discover Brunhilde's plan. Before the fight, she called her fourth sister, Rangriz, and asked if she would be willing to become Lu Bu's weapon. Rangriz accepted immediately. The Chinese warrior's halberd begins to glow and the gods figure out the play. The Valkyries have a secret power called Volundr, which transforms them into divine weapons, and Rangriz's name means shield breaker, the perfect choice to face Mjolnir and Thor's iron gloves. With his new weapon, Lu Bu attacks, and Thor's gloves begin to crack. Soon, the right glove shatters, leaving the gods in a panic.
Consider me impressed.
Hermes explains what's happening. The Valkyries are rebelling and arming the humans for Ragnarok. Zeus, instead of getting angry, finds it all exciting. Suddenly, Mjolnir begins to pulse and heat up. The hammer is alive, with flesh inside. Zeus reveals the truth. The gloves didn't protect Thor from the hammer, but rather the hammer from being crushed by Thor's brute force before it awakened. Thor throws away the rest of the glove and, with Mjolnir now at its full power, tells Lu Bu not to die just yet. Meanwhile, Brunhilde receives the full list of fighters on her phone. On the god side, we have Zeus, Loki, Apollo, Poseidon, and even Buddha. On the human side, names like Nikola Tesla, Jack the Ripper, and of course, Lu Bu. Brunhilde calls them the Einherjar, the 13 god-slayers. Back in the fight, Thor prepares to use his maximum power for the first time. He throws Mjolnir, which, according to legend, never misses. Lu Bu dodges the attack, but the hammer curves and comes back. Thor didn't throw it to hit, but to use the centrifugal force of its return to deliver his most powerful blow. Gerod Thor's hammer, which hits Lu Bu head on. Lu Bu manages to block the mighty Thor's hammer, but the impact is so brutal that his legs simply break. Zeus, watching from the VIP box, loves the scene because he enjoys a straightforward one-on-one fight. But now, with Lu Bu's legs turning to jelly, the fight seems decided. As Thor raises his hammer again, Lu Bu's strategist Chen Gong prepares to watch his master die for the second time. But then, out of nowhere, Red Hair, Lu Bu's faithful steed, storms the arena. Seeing that not even the horse has given up, Chen Gong is inspired and starts a chant of support for Lu Bu. Heimdall, the announcer, thinks it's impossible for the man to get up, but with the strength of the crowd, Lu Bu not only gets to his feet, but mounts Red Hair. He remembers when he was a child and saw lightning destroy a tree, and instead of fear, he only thought that there must be someone very strong in the sky.
I didn't fear the dancing flames.
Up there are the strongest beings.
Hermes is confused, like, can a horse join the fight? But Zeus tells him to relax and not spoil the fun. The rule is clear. Lu Bu and Red Hair are now one, like a megazord. Lu Bu begins to ride in circles around Thor, holding his halberd by the very tip. In a flashback, we see that Lu Bu, even after becoming the strongest, never stopped training. He broke countless weapons practicing because he knew that one day he would find an opponent worthy of him. With years of training, he developed superhuman arm strength and an ultimate technique, the Sky Eater. Back in the fight, Lu Bu leaps towards Thor to use his final move, leaving the thunder god thrilled. Thor responds with his own maximum attack. The two blows collide in an explosion of lightning and power. Lu Bu's halberd shatters, and his Valkyrie reverts to her normal form. Thor's attack wins, destroying the warrior's arms. Even defeated, Lu Bu smiles with satisfaction and charges one last time. Then Thor defeats him with a single blow from his hammer. Heimdall announces Thor as the winner, and the gods celebrate. Humanity is one step closer to extinction. As Lu Bu dies with a smile on his face, his former comrades in arms toast to the fallen hero. On the other side, the gods mock the humans, saying they never stood a chance. Thor, looking grim, begins to leave the arena, but Lu Bu's army, led by Chen Gong and the horse Red Hair, decides that living without their master is meaningless. They charge at Thor, asking to die alongside their leader. Thor accepts, treating the act as an offering to his new friend, and annihilates Lu Bu's smiling army. Gol, the rookie Valkyrie, is devastated, and Brunhilde explains the harsh reality. This is a battle of souls. Once a soul is destroyed, it cannot be recovered. It doesn't get reincarnated. It doesn't go to heaven. It simply ceases to exist. It turns to dust. Gol cries, but Brunhilde scolds her, saying you can't kill a god if you get depressed. Back in her room, she chooses the next fighter, the first human and the one who hates the gods the most. The arena is rebuilt in the blink of an eye, and Heimdall announces the second round. The human fighter appears on a platform surrounded by animals. Heimdall introduces him as the man who rebelled against God, carrying the original sin and detesting the gods more than anyone, the father of all humanity, Adam.
Introducing Adam!
The crowd goes wild. Adam bites an apple, spits it out, and complains that it's sour. The gods are unimpressed, but Aphrodite thinks he's a cutie. It's time to announce the gods' fighter, but no one appears. Suddenly, music begins to play. It's Bach, but played in a way that not even Bach himself would imagine. Hermes appears, playing the violin. Heimdall announces that Adam's opponent will be Zeus. Gol and Brunhilde panic. Zeus tells Hermes to play his intro music, and the messenger god gets carried away, summoning more violins and starting to play play the Great Battlefield Massacre in G major, while Zeus begins to dance. Heimdall declares that if Adam is the father of humanity, Zeus is the godfather of the cosmos. He recalls that Zeus won the tournament, the war that decided the most powerful god, by killing his own father, Cronus. As he dances, Zeus's muscles begin to swell, and he transforms into a muscular giant. The humans are shocked. Not even Brunhilde expected Zeus to fight so soon. Before the fight, we see a quick flashback of how Zeus managed to cut in line. Shiva was ready to fight, but Zeus simply tapped him on the shoulder and said, "My turn." Shiva got angry, but Zeus forced him to his knees with a simple touch. Seeing he stood no chance, Shiva gave up his spot but warned Zeus that he owed him one. Back in the present, the second round is about to begin. Zeus asks Adam if he's not going to get a Volander, his Valkyrie weapon, because without it, the fight would be over in an instant. Adam points to the sky and the Valkyrie Raiden Leif is already there. She descends and upon touching Adam's hand, transforms into his weapon, a knuckle duster. Zeus thinks the choice is cool and says he'll fight barehanded. Adam replies that he'll regret it. The fight begins. In 0.01 seconds, Zeus crosses the arena and throws a punch, but Adam dodges. Zeus increases his speed to 10 to the -5 seconds with his meteor jab, but Adam continues to dodge everything with absurd ease. Zeus pushes his speed to 10 to the -8 seconds and Adam still dodges. The god then tries a low kick, the divine axe, but Adam leaps over it. Zeus is excited but says that just running away won't work. That's when the tables turn. Adam attacks and copies Zeus's meteor jab, landing every single hit. Next, he uses the divine axe, also copied, and hits the god's leg.
Meteor jab. Divine axe.
Brunhilde explains Adam's superpower, the eyes of the Lord. Since he was created in the image of God, he can perfectly copy any divine technique he sees. Zeus, loving the challenge, prepares a special move he learned from his father, Cronus, the fist that surpassed time, a punch that defies the laws of time. When he throws it, time seems to stop. But, to everyone's shock, Adam copies the blow in the same instant and hits Zeus square in the face, sending the godfather of the cosmos straight to the ground. Adam even apologizes, calling Zeus Gramps. Hearing this, Zeus becomes even more furious and gets up, more muscular than before, ready for the next round. The god of war, Ares, tries to explain what happened. Zeus's speed is so absurd that not even the gods can keep up. He even saw the punch coming, but in the blink of an eye, Zeus's head snapped back, and he hit the floor. Hermes, the messenger god, gives the verdict. In the same instant Zeus attacked, Adam copied the move, dodged, and used Zeus's own power against him. Ares is shocked that Hermes could see everything, but he admits he didn't see it. He just felt that's what happened. Ares realizes that even with 1,000 years of training, he couldn't beat Adam. Heimdall announces that Zeus is down, and there's a sense of a miracle in the air. Brunhilde lays out the truth. Adam's strength comes from his pure, simple hatred for the gods. Then comes a flashback to the Garden of Eden. Eve is on trial for eating the forbidden fruit. The serpent, the real snitch of the story, accuses her. In reality, the reptile had tried to hit on her, got rejected, and to get revenge, he bit the apple and framed Eve. In the court of the gods, a human's chances of winning were 0. When Eve is sentenced to exile, Adam bursts in with 2 baskets of apples. He bites one, spits it out, and complains that it's sour, leaving everyone speechless. He walks out eating and spitting out all the apples, one by one. He gets close to Eve and says, "If you're leaving, I'm going with you." The serpent can't take it, turns into a monster, and attacks. Adam just says, "The little birds told me you made her cry." He copies the serpent's claws and slices the creature to pieces. Then, he takes Eve away to Earth. Back in the arena, Zeus asks why he fights, and Adam replies, "I don't need a reason to protect my children." Humanity goes wild, thinking victory is certain. But as Heimdall is about to announce Adam as the winner, Zeus gets up, twisting his neck back into place. He says he senses no hatred in Adam, that there must be another reason. That's when the iconic phrase comes.
What's the reason you want to go toe-to-toe against the gods?
Is there any man alive who needs a reason? To protect his very own children.
Zeus then begins to compress his own body in a bizarre and painful process. Even Loki shows up to troll Odin and comment that it's been centuries since he's seen Zeus's final form. The smoke clears to reveal a shrunken and shredded Zeus, his Adamas form. Zeus's Adamas form is like a turbo mode with a time limit. It lasts about 12 minutes, but since he's already broken, Hermes calculates he'll only last about 5. His secret technique is basically turning his muscles into an energy press and unleashing it all in one punch. Zeus throws his true god's right, but Adam, the king of copy-paste, returns the blow in kind. The exchange of punches is frantic, but suddenly, Adam starts bleeding. Brunhilde realizes the problem. His body is overheating from copying so many divine moves. Loki, always watching, figures out that Zeus is also reaching his limit. The fight is so insane that the entire audience is on its feet without even realizing it. The tide turns when a drop of Zeus's blood lands in Adam's eye. His vision gives out and he starts bleeding from his eyes, nose, and ears. Blinded, Adam goes on the defensive, taking a relentless beating. Humanity despairs, begging him to give up. But Adam hears a baby cry and remembers his mission to protect his children. He continues to take the beating, but it was all a plan. He endures the assault just to get a hold of Zeus's head. Locked together, the two trade blows in a brutal final sequence. Adam lands one last punch that knocks Zeus down and breaks his Adamus form. The human crowd explodes in celebration, but something is wrong. Adam remains standing, smiling, but he is dead. Zeus reveals that Adam had already died before falling, but his fighting spirit was so strong that he kept punching even after death. Goal is devastated by the death of the Valkyrie Raiden Leif. Hist, another Valkyrie, explains that Volander isn't just a transformation into a weapon, it's a total fusion. They fight and die together. Brunhilde, furious at losing her trump card, drowns her sorrows in pies. The next fight is announced, Poseidon for the gods. While everyone despairs, an old man named Kojiro offers to fight. Goal doubts him, but the old man shows his absurd skill by catching spilled milk in midair with his sword. Kojiro explains, he died 400 years ago, but he never stopped training. His prime is now. Kojiro is set to fight Poseidon, and the Valkyrie Hist joins him. The arena changes completely, now surrounded by water, a clear sign of who's coming. Heimdall announces Poseidon, one of the most feared gods, who enters by parting the sea like Moses. The silence is total. No one wants to anger the guy. Next, Heimdall introduces the fool who will face the god, Kojiro, history's greatest loser. A man who, even after death, continued to evolve. In the audience, even sword legends like Musashi acknowledge that Kojiro has reached a divine level. Musashi even rips up his own book, saying it's no longer necessary. The fight begins, but no one moves. It's a tense standoff. Ares thinks it's a counterattack duel, but Hermes corrects him. Poseidon doesn't counterattack. He simply crushes anyone who enters his range. In Kojiro's mind, the fight has already happened 18 times, and in all of them, he was killed. It's like he's hitting load game to find an opening. He starts sweating while standing still, and the crowd thinks he's getting tired just from standing. Brunhilde takes advantage of the pause to tell Goal a story. She explains that Olympus used to have 13 gods. The name of Zeus's final form, Adamus, was actually the name of his older brother. Adamus rebelled against Zeus and tried to recruit Poseidon, but the sea god found him pathetic. For Poseidon, gods are perfect and don't need help, conspiracies, or armies. Adamus, furious at the scorn, attacks him. In that instant, Poseidon finally looks his brother in the eye and kills him with a single blow. Hermes reveals the most frightening part of the story to Ares. Poseidon not only killed Adamus, but he ordered that his existence be erased from history, and no one dared to question it. Back in the arena, Kojiro realizes that Poseidon isn't even looking at him, treating him like an insect. Unsure of what to do, he sits on the ground, wondering how to fight someone who refuses to acknowledge him as an opponent. We go back to Japan during the Sengoku period, where we meet Kojiro, a kid training at the Toda Dojo. He arrives late, gets chewed out, but doesn't care. To test the boy, the senior student Kagekatsu calls him for a practice match. Kojiro manages to defend himself, but is quickly disarmed and gives up. The master, Seigen, asks why he gave up so easily. Kojiro, with next-level logic, explains that if he fought 100 times, he'd lose 100 times, and getting hurt would only hinder his future.
I couldn't win even if I fought Master Kagekatsu 100 times. At my current level, if I gave it my all, I would only get injured.
A misunderstood genius. So Kojiro disappears into the forest and begins his own training. Like a Japanese Rocky Balboa, he eats meat to gain muscle and starts imitating the movements of animals, learning to fight with nature. 6 months later, he returns to the dojo, all buffed up. Kagekatsu, the bully, wants to fight again, but Kojiro calmly replies that he's already fought him 146 times in his head and finally won, so there's no need to fight for real. When Kagekatsu tries to attack, he has a vision of his own death and freezes. Kojiro, now on another level, asks Master Seigen to show his skill.
Well then.
Years pass. Seigen, now blind, visits Kojiro and realizes from the marks in the house that the man trained non-stop, mentally surpassing all the great warriors, including Seigen himself. Back in the arena, Kojiro faces Poseidon. He decides to strike first with his signature move, the Tsubame Gaishi. Poseidon dodges, but Kojiro manages to cut a strand of the god's hair. It's enough for Poseidon to finally look at him. Kojiro smiles. He got the god's attention, and we see a quick flashback of him using this same move to leave a scar on Musashi's face. Poseidon doesn't like this game and launches a shower of attacks, but Kojiro dodges everything. How? Brunhilde explains. He doesn't have special eyes. He simply simulated this fight in his head so many times that he's memorized the god's movements. But Poseidon increases his speed, catches Kojiro by surprise, lands a blow, and even taunts him. What's wrong? I thought you could predict my moves. Even wounded, Kojiro gets up. The crowd in the stadium goes wild for Poseidon, chanting God of Gods, but a single cold stare from the sea god is enough to silence everyone. Kojiro taunts him, asking why he doesn't accept the support of his friends. Poseidon responds with some celestial life coach talk. Gods are perfect, they don't need anyone. Kojiro fires back, then your existence must be pathetic. Poseidon gets pissed and launches an attack with a name like a soap opera character, Kione Tiro Demeter, a storm of blows. Kojiro, the master of simulation, manages to predict and dodge everything, but Poseidon is clever and attacks him from a blind spot. The fight continues frantically until Poseidon breaks Kojiro's sword. Game over? It seems so. But then comes the flashback that explains everything. In his legendary fight against Musashi, Kojiro was having so much fun that he didn't want to give up, even knowing he would die. He loved the fight more than life itself. Back in the present, Kojiro delivers an epic speech to Poseidon, talking about the passion of training all night and the gratitude for an opponent who makes you stronger, things a perfect and lonely god would never understand. With this boost of morale, his broken sword glows. The Valkyrie Hist uses her special power, Re-Volander, and transforms the shattered blade into two swords. Kojiro is now in dual wield mode, and the comeback begins. Kojiro not only predicts Poseidon's attacks, but starts using the styles of all the masters who defeated him in the past. Musashi's movements, the Toda clan's techniques, the strength of the Ito Ryu school. He becomes a compilation of history's greatest swordsmen and, one cut at a time, begins to wound the god, giving hope to humanity. Poseidon goes into berserker mode. He combs his hair with his own blood and charges at Kojiro with direct, brutal attacks. The speed is so immense that even while predicting the blows, Kojiro can't dodge everything. The god creates a dome of attacks around him, and it looks like the end has come for good. But then comes an Avengers Assemble moment. Kojiro feels the spiritual support of all his former rivals, encouraging him to show his true power. With this strength, his senses become absurdly sharp. He not only predicts the movements, but feels the vibrations of the air and the earth. Kojiro enters Ultra Instinct mode, dodging everything as he closes in on Poseidon. With his ultimate technique, he cuts off the god's right arm and trident. Poseidon, desperate, tries to attack with the trident in his mouth, but Kojiro is faster and cuts off the other arm. And to finish it, a cross slash that slices the god into 4 pieces. The impossible has happened. Humanity gets its first victory. The gods are silent, shocked. The arena explodes with chants of Kojiro's name. Exhausted, he faints and is caught by the Valkyrie Hist. In Zeus's room, things are tense. Shiva and Loki are furious, but Zeus, surprisingly calm, admits that the human was simply stronger. Shiva wants to be the next to fight, but Zeus warns that the Greek gods have a debt to settle. In the end, they decide that another Greek god will enter the battle.
But surely you understand that a Greek god must be the one to take revenge for another.
Heimdall announces the score, 2-1 for the gods. The arena transforms into 19th century London for the next fight. On humanity's side, the most sinister figure possible emerges. History's most famous murderer, Jack the Ripper. The human audience is horrified. Gull is hyped, but Brunhilde knows the gods won't take this line down and will send in a big gun. And what a big gun. Hercules himself appears, exuding power. Gull, who's a fan, even jumps into his arms. Hercules confirms it's his turn, and Brunhilde, surprisingly, kneels and wishes him good luck. After he leaves, Loki appears to throw some shade, commenting on how close Hercules is to the Valkyries. After all, they're all demigods. Hercules smiles and says that humans are worthy opponents, but makes it clear he is against humanity's extermination. He will fight to win, but afterward, he will ask them to save everyone. Loki is confused, unsure whose side Hercules is really on. His answer? The side of justice. A true hero. The question is, who will fight against the most just of the gods? gods. Brunhilde has already decided, and it's someone she hates. The biggest piece of trash in human history. Goal gets it right away. Jack the Ripper. The arena transforms into 19th century London, and the stage is set for good versus evil. Hercules is outraged. He would gladly fight honorable men like Lubu, Adam, or Kojiro, but a serial killer? Even the human audience doesn't know who to root for. Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes, explains who Jack was, a serial killer who terrorized London and was never caught. Hercules offers Jack a chance to surrender. Jack thanks him for the kindness but refuses. He pulls out a giant pair of scissors and connects them, saying this is his volunder. The fight begins, and the first thing Jack does is run away. Hercules goes after him, pissed off, and finds him sitting at a small table, drinking tea. Jack says it's tea time, activating a trap. Blades fall on Hercules, but don't even scratch him. The chase continues, and Hercules finally breaks Jack's scissors. Everyone thinks the Volander is gone and the fight is over, but it's not. Jack pulls several knives from a bag and throws them at Hercules, and to everyone's surprise, they pierce the god. Jack reveals he lied. The scissors weren't the Volander, the bag was, and it can create weapons. Brunhilde explains her twisted strategy. The only thing humans surpass gods in is malice, and Jack is the personification of infinite malice. Hercules gets angry, pulls out the knives and charges. Jack defends himself with an umbrella as Hercules activates his power, the Nennian lion, and his tattoos begin to grow. He unleashes a devastating attack that throws Jack into a building, but Jack gets up as if it were nothing, pops his shoulder back into place, quotes Shakespeare, and announces that Act 1 was great, but now it's time for Act 2. The crowd notices that Hercules' tattoos won't stop growing. Loki, ever curious, asks what they are, and Ares explains it's the price of power. Before becoming a god, Hercules completed the 12 labors, but every time he uses one of these divine powers, the tattoos spread, causing unbearable pain. If they cover his entire body, it's over. He dies. Basically, he's trading his own life for power. Then comes the flashback of Hercules' life, when he was just a kid named Alcides. He was weak, but had a heart of gold, and a sense of justice the size of the world, always taking beatings to defend others. He trained non-stop to get stronger. Some bullies make fun of him and talk about ambrosia, the nectar of Zeus, which supposedly turns you into a god if you're worthy, or kills you if you're not. Cut to a meeting of the gods. Most vote not to destroy humanity, but Ares, the god of war, is itching to punish the city of Thebes. When he descends to wreak havoc, who shows up to face him? Alcides. He gets beaten, gets up, gets beaten again but doesn't give up. Ares even offers to spare his life if he kneels. But Alcides refuses. He says that humans are flawed, but the desire to be just exists in all of them. If the gods think it's just to destroy that, then he will challenge them. At that moment, he pulls out the ambrosia and drinks it all. Instead of dying, he transforms, gaining a divine body.
I will not let you through!
He not only survives, but can now fight on equal terms with Ares. Zeus appears and stops the fight. Deciding to make Alcides a god to avoid further trouble, he becomes Hercules, on the condition that the gods never attack humanity again. Back in the fight, Jack is more aggressive, using a boomerang-like switchblade and throwing knives everywhere. He uses piano wires stretched across the arena to practically fly, moving in a bizarre way. He throws knives that ricochet off the walls, hitting Hercules from all angles. Hercules uses another of his labors, creating a gust of wind that throws the knives back at Jack. Jack, however, seems to be having fun. With his special eye, he sees the color of Hercules' soul and finds it beautiful, unshakable. He gets excited, saying he can't wait to see what color Hercules will be at the moment of death, and starts humming a sinister lullaby. We enter Jack's mind with a flashback to his childhood in 19th century London. He was a poor boy who could see people's emotions as colors. His mother, Mary, was a woman of the night, and to young Jack, her color was golden, the most beautiful of all. He loved her more than anything, especially after finding out she had 5 miscarriages before deciding to have him. To him, this was the ultimate proof of love. Everything falls apart when his mother discovers that the man she loved, Jack's father, has married another woman. Her world collapses. In despair, she screams at Jack that she regrets having him, that he was just a tool to keep the man around. At that moment, her golden color turns into a red of hatred and resentment. Jack, seeing that disgusting color, can't take it. He strangles her, and as she dies, her color changes to a purple of pure fear. Jack finds this new color beautiful. After killing his mother, he goes after his father and kills him too. Back in the arena, the fight continues. continues. Hercules corners Jack against Big Ben and brings the tower down. Jack clings to the clock's hands and throws them like a giant frisbee at Hercules. The god, confident that mortal weapons can't harm him, extends his arm to block the attack, and then comes the shock. The clock slices Hercules' arm off.
A divine body can only be wounded by a divine weapon!
The final revelation hits everyone like a ton of bricks. Jack's Volander was never the scissors, nor the bag. It was the gloves. Everything Jack's gloves touch transforms into a divine weapon. The scissors, the bag, the escape, the tea. It was all a massive act to set up this single move, a master bluff that fooled a god. A flashback shows how this was possible. Brunhilde tells the Valkyrie Locke to join Jack, but she refuses to partner with a psychopath. Jack appears from behind, grabs her, and terrifies her so much that fear forces her to transform into the gloves, his Volander. Brunhilde watched it all, coldly, because she knew this power was necessary to win. Goal is horrified by her sister's cruelty. Jack explains his power. Anything he touches becomes a deadly weapon. A pebble becomes a cannonball. The realization dawns on everyone. The entire arena, every piece of London, is Jack the Ripper's arsenal. Inside Mary's room, Anne looks upon the horror movie scene and reflects that Jack never knew love, making him a pitiful child. Meanwhile, humanity starts to believe the Ripper might actually win. The gods scream for Hercules not to give up, but to Jack, it sounds like a funeral dirge for a hero. He warns them, it's time for the grand finale. Ares weeps at the thought of Hercules' potential death, but a fed-up Zeus sends him flying with a single punch, asking how he could chicken out before Hercules himself. Zeus is certain his friend won't lose, because that's just the kind of man he is. Hercules rips off his own armor and uses the strap as a tourniquet, like a mythological Rambo. Jack applauds, impressed by the god's pride, who doesn't show a shred of fear. Hercules figures out that Jack's right eye can see emotions. Jack confirms it, saying it was the only gift he ever received from God, and it's what helps him survive in this world full of evil. To him, the color of pure fear is a work of art. Hercules says he understands Jack, but that he lost and gave in to despair. Despite listing all of humanity's flaws, envy, hatred, betrayal, greed, a list that reads like the side effects on a bad medicine bottle, Hercules confesses that despite it all, he loves humans. Jack sees the color of love emanating from the god, the same color he saw in his mother, a color he thought he'd never see again.
But in spite of all that, I still love the human race.
Love of my life. I never imagined I'd have the chance to see it again.
Then, Hercules throws his club into the air and activates his 12th labor, Cerberus. From the sky, the Hound of Hell itself appears, transforming the god into a demonic figure. Now it's a race against time. Either the power will devour Jack or it will consume Hercules himself. The fight becomes insane. Jack uses rubble and even a manhole cover as a divine weapon, but Hercules punches through everything and lands a direct hit. Jack uses a grappling hook to escape, but Hercules leaps after him and punches him so hard that he crashes into a metal fence and gets stuck. Even wounded, Jack turns his own cape into a divine weapon and brings the entire building down on Hercules. But the god emerges from the rubble, declaring that nothing will shake his righteous heart. Jack laughs, realizing his mother's love was fake, but Hercules's is real. The fight turns into a frantic close-quarters brawl, with Jack just dodging. Loki finds this suspicious. Jack attempts one last attack with the iron bars from the fence, but only scratches the god. Hercules knocks him down, and just as humanity loses all hope, Jack rises again, singing. As Jack gets up, Hercules praises his resilience. The two charge at each other. Hercules prepares for the final blow, but at the last second, Jack stabs him in the chest with his bare hands. The plot twist is brilliant. Jack had turned his own blood on his gloves into a divine weapon. He names the technique Dear God in honor of his opponent. But instead of a final blow, Hercules embraces Jack. He says he loves humans as his soul shatters. Before vanishing, he apologizes for yelling and leaves the future of humanity in Brunhilde's hands. Heimdall declares Jack the winner. Locke, his Valkyrie, returns to her form and realizes he's so broken he can't even feel sadness. The people of Thebes, outraged by their hero's death, start throwing stones at Jack. Goal cries for Hercules, but Brunhilde remains firm, though she's clenching her fist so hard it bleeds. Later, alone, she adds a cup in tribute to Hercules, next to Lubu and Adam, and weeps for him. Meanwhile, Loki, who's no fool, figures out Jack's entire strategy. The fall onto the fence was on purpose, to get enough blood to soak his gloves. He didn't just fool Hercules, he fooled all the gods. The score is now 2-2, and Zeus is pissed. Taking advantage of the chaos, Loki goes after Buddha, suspecting he's a traitor. He has a theory. Valander isn't just a forge, but a power that unites the souls of the Valkyrie and the human, like a Samavadana. He asks him point blank, "Are you a traitor?" Buddha just smirks and asks, "What if I am?" Loki threatens to kill him. Just then, the 7 lucky gods appear, acting as heaven's enforcers, ready to pass judgment on Buddha. The tension rises, and a completely calm Buddha stabs one of them through the hand with his lollipop stick. A brawl is about to break out, but then the cavalry arrives. Kojiro, Soji, and Isami appear to defend Buddha. It's turned into a schoolyard gang fight. The showdown is set. Buddha and the swordsman on one side, Loki and the 7 lucky gods on the other. They trade barbs, with Kojiro saying that all gods are the same, thinking the world revolves around them. Ebisu tries to shoot Buddha, who dodges the bullets like Neo from the Matrix. Loki attacks with his chained blades, but Soji intercepts him, and the two are itching for a fight. But before all hell breaks loose, Zeus and Odin arrive to crash the party. Odin's aura is so sinister it makes the surrounding plants rot. With the mood ruined, everyone backs down and leaves. Before going, Bishamon warns Buddha traitors will be judged. Alone with Zeus, Buddha makes it clear the only one who bosses him around is himself. Meanwhile, Brunhilde and Gol go to find the next fighter. They step into a Japanese-style room that looks like it was hit by a typhoon of food and sake. In the middle of the mess, sleeping, is their man. He is none other than the greatest sumo wrestler in history, Raiden. The man is the personification of desire, a lecherous glutton who wakes up and immediately hits on Brunhilde. His Valkyrie isn't Brunhilde, but Thrud, a woman so massive she breaks down the door just to get in. Raiden, instead of being disappointed, is thrilled and embraces her, saying big women are his type. Thrud, the strongest of all Valkyries, blushes beet red. The arena for the 5th round becomes a sumo ring. Heimdall announces humanity's fighter, Raiden, a man so strong he was forbidden from using his most basic moves to avoid destroying his opponents. And from the god's side, here comes his opponent, the destroyer of worlds, the god of destruction, Shiva. Things are about to get serious. Shiva's cheering section is out in full force, with his wives and even his sons sending him their energy. On the other side, Raiden begins a strange ritual with a frog and a basket of salt. Shiva is confused, but when Raiden throws the salt in the air, he realizes it's some kind of sumo ceremony and lets it slide. Raiden claps his hands, creating a gust of wind, and gets into his fighting stance, apologizing for the delay. Without warning, Raiden flies in with a dropkick that connects squarely with Shiva's face. The god is a bit dazed but stands his ground.
Round 5 begins, and history's greatest sumo wrestler makes his...
Raiden throws a punch, Shiva blocks, but the wrestler follows up with a Russian hook that brings the god to his knees. As Raiden moves in to finish him with a knee strike, Shiva blocks and using his extra arms unleashes a beatdown on Raiden's chest, sending him flying. Shiva is loving the fight, but Raiden doesn't understand why anyone would enjoy fighting so much. And then, we see the reason for his absurd strength. Flashback. As a baby, Raiden's muscles were so strong they would break his own bones. To survive, he developed a shell of muscles on top, known as the 100 Seals, just to contain his own power. Back in the arena, Raiden releases these seals. His muscles explode in size. His Valander with Thrud is a belt that acts as an exoskeleton, allowing him, for the first time in his life, to fight with 100% of his strength. Raiden warns Shiva not to break, because not even he knows what will happen. He charges forward with a mind-blowing combo, knocking Shiva down with a move called Chrysanthemum. Shiva gets up, feeling the damage. The two trade headbutts, but Shiva retaliates with a series of punches that feel like cannon shots. Raiden, in turn, grabs one of Shiva's arms, concentrates his muscles, and crack! He crushes the bone with his wild boar technique. The gods panic, but the Indian crowd trusts in Shiva. With one less arm, he's off balance, but his punches become heavier. The fight turns into a straight-up slugfest, and Shiva remembers his old friend Rudra. We flash back to ancient India, when the pantheon of gods was a total mess. There, we meet Shiva, a god who just wanted to dance, and his best friend Rudra, a training junkie. One day, Rudra reveals his dream, to reach the top of the pantheon and test his limits. He convinces Shiva to join him, and the duo goes on a fighting tour, defeating one god after another. At first, everyone laughed at them, but with each victory, mockery turned to respect. They defeated powerful gods, and even the top dog, Indra. Finally, after defeating 1,115 gods, they reach the summit. But then comes the twist. Rudra challenges Shiva to a fight. There can only be one at the top. The most epic and at the same time saddest fight in India's history begins.
And and neither of them had ever felt so sad.
Shiva gets the upper hand and is about to end it, but he doesn't want to kill his best friend. He considers giving up, but Rudra beats him to it and forfeits first, saying that being defeated by someone holding back would be worse than death. Rudra gives all his titles to Shiva, who becomes the top god of India, but in the process, loses his greatest companion. Back in the present, Rudra himself is in the audience, watching the fight. Motivated, Shiva begins his war dance, his secret technique. He moves with the rhythm of the cosmos, becoming so fast that Raiden can't land a hit. It's like he's fighting multiple people at once. The dance is so intense that Shiva's body spontaneously catches fire. Literally in flames, he leaps and hits Raiden with a flaming kick which burns the sumo's flesh. Everyone, gods and humans alike, thinks the fight is over, but Raiden, completely scorched, cracks a smile. Why is Raiden smiling? Another flashback explains. As a child, his immense strength caused him to accidentally injure a friend, and he was called a monster. His mother then taught him to use that power to help the weak. Years later, a volcanic eruption causes a terrible famine in his village. To help his people, the young Taurokichi, Raiden's name at the time, goes to the capital to become a sumo wrestler and earn money. The problem is, he's terrified of hurting his opponents. He starts holding back in his fights, never using his full power. Even so, he becomes a legend, but he was a champion who never once fought for real in his entire career. Back in the arena, against Shiva, he finally decides to go all out. Using his Volander, he manages to shift all the muscles in his body to the palm of his hand, preparing a devastating blow. The impact is so absurd, it tears off two of Shiva's remaining arms and breaks the sound barrier, but the cost is tremendous. Raiden's body begins to tear itself apart from the inside. The Valkyrie Thrud can barely hold him together. Even so, he wants to push further, putting his life on the line. Thrud, saying he is the man she fell in love with, agrees. On the other side, Shiva sees his friend Rudra in the crowd and hears the prayers of the gods. This gives him one last push. He digs his fingers into his own chest, stimulating his heart to beat faster and activating Tandava Karma. His entire body turns red and bursts into flames. According to legend, this is the dance Shiva uses to destroy the universe and then rebuild it from its own ashes.
Let's find out what it can do, shall we?
Shiva will burn his own body and use the ashes to rebuild the world.
Brunhilde sums it up perfectly. The more hopes they carry, the stronger they become. The final battle between the two greatest standard bearers in history is about to be decided. The Indian gods can't believe what they're seeing. Shiva is back, and he's much stronger. He and Raiden trade blows relentlessly, but Brunhilde warns that a long fight is bad for Raiden, as every block against the flaming Shiva burns away his muscles. Ares is already declaring victory for Shiva, but Hermes, ever the analyst, explains that the Indian god's power is a double-edged sword. If he keeps burning himself like this, he'll end up as a pile of ashes. Raiden tries to grab and throw Shiva, but the god recovers and counters with a kick. Shiva presses his attack mercilessly, and the sumo wrestlers in the crowd become desperate, but then a veteran tells them to get a grip. They need to support their man. Raiden hears their shouts and, fueled by their friendship, manages to push Shiva away. Shiva's severed arm finally falls off, and the Indian gods realize he's falling apart. With renewed energy from their respective crowds, the two go back to their brawl. Raiden senses the end is near and decides to bet it all on one more Yatagarasu strike, but Shiva doesn't back down and intercepts the attack with his leg, using his Devaloka technique. The kick tears right through Raiden's arm, ripping it in two. Even without an arm, Raiden remains standing and thanks Shiva for giving him the chance to fight with everything he had. Raiden says he has no energy left and no regrets. He calls out to Thrud, telling her to release the Volander. She refuses, saying she promised never to abandon the man she loved. He replies that he couldn't have asked for a better woman. With one last look at Shiva, he says he had fun. Shiva smiles, calls him a great man, and takes him down with a kick. Raiden's soul shatters along with Thrud's, and Heimdall declares Shiva the winner. Gol weeps for Thrud's death, and Brunhilde comforts her, quoting Adam's words, "You don't need a reason to protect the ones you love." Alone, she adds a memorial for Raiden, unable to hold back her tears. Meanwhile, Zeus finds Buddha eating sweets and summons him for the 6th match. Buddha, in full troll mode, denies Zeus a piece of candy and accepts the invitation. Later, Gol overhears the 7 lucky gods plotting against Buddha and talking about someone named Zero. The 7 lucky gods have cornered little Gol, ready to teach her a lesson, but like something out of a suspense movie, Jack the Ripper appears offering tea and completely kills the mood. Ebisu is ready to throw down, but Bishamon, the group's leader, tells him to stand down. Before leaving, they threaten Gol, telling her to keep her mouth shut. As soon as they're gone, everyone, she relaxes and thinks those guys seem more like gods of misfortune than luck. The 6th round is about to begin, with the score 3-2 in favor of the gods. Heimdall announces the divine champion, Buddha, the man who achieved enlightenment in just 6 years. The humans are in shock, thinking they'll have to fight against Buddha himself, except he doesn't stop on the god's side. He walks right past Heimdall and stands with the humans.
I'm gonna be fighting for the humans. Thanks.
Heimdall tries to correct him, but Buddha snatches his horn, spits out his gum, and announces to the entire stadium that he will fight for humanity. The gods are furious, calling him a traitor, but Buddha simply shatters the Gjallarhorn and tells everyone to shut up. He makes it clear, if the gods won't save humanity, he will, and he promises to kill anyone who gets in his way. A quick flashback shows Buddha finding a crying Brunhilde. He tells her he'll fight for humanity, and she accepts without surprise, which makes him suspicious. He asks if this was her plan all along, but she denies it. Back in the arena, Zeus, surprisingly, allows the switch, saying the rules don't forbid it. He even offers to fight Buddha again himself, but the opponent has already been chosen. Dark clouds cover the arena, and a flying ship descends with the 7 lucky gods. Heimdall announces the fighter is Bishamon, but the other 6 don't move. Bishamon then reveals the secret. They are not 7, but 1. The other gods rush towards him and are absorbed in a bizarre, evil Power Rangers-style fusion. The 7 become a single being, Zerofuku, the god of misfortune. Pointing at Buddha, he declares he will kill him. Gol finally understands what Ebisu meant by zero. We go back in time, to an era when gods and humans were closer. We meet the young Zerofuku, a genuinely good god who only wanted to spread happiness. He saw humans suffering and had an idea to absorb their misfortune and pain into himself. He spends years doing this, feeling excruciating pain but happy to be helping. But when he returns to visit one of the villages, he's in for a shock. Without suffering, the people have become a bunch of depraved scumbags who don't even recognize him and spit on him. Zerofuku is devastated, unable to understand why, after everything he's done, the humans aren't happy. That's when he sees a man walking by, followed by a crowd. It's Buddha, eating some beans. The people following him are poor, but their faces are shining with happiness. Zerofuku, enraged, confronts Buddha, asking why the people with him seem so happy while the ones he helped aren't. Buddha explains the obvious. Happiness isn't something you're given, it's something you achieve for yourself. He invites Zerofuku to join him, but the young god runs off, crying with jealousy and hatred. His love turns to pure hate. His heart shatters into 7 pieces, and he decides to spread misfortune.
Much better.
But as he tries to attack a human, he sees a mother protecting her child and stops. Conflicted, he splits himself into the 7 lucky gods to contain his own power. Back in the fight, Zerofuku says the time for judgment has come. He attacks Buddha with a giant axe, but Buddha dodges everything with absurd ease. Zerofuku's axe has a trick. It absorbs his own misfortune with every miss, growing larger and more powerful. The weapon becomes a monstrosity called Misery Cleaver. Brunhilde realizes that the more Buddha dodges, the stronger the axe gets. Gol despairs, but Brunhilde points out that Buddha isn't just dodging, he's moving before the attack. His eyes have reached a level of precognition, like Goku's Ultra Instinct. Buddha continues to humiliate Zerofuku, who grows increasingly frustrated. The axe grows to a ridiculous size with multiple blades, and Zerofuku launches an attack that seems impossible to dodge. Brunhilde thinks it's the end of the line for Buddha, but as the axe comes down, Buddha activates his weapon, the 6-realm staff, which transforms into the shield, blocking the massive attack. With a smirk, Buddha tells Zerofuku not to worry, as he can handle his rebellious phase, making the god of misfortune even more furious. Gol's jaw drops when she sees Buddha has a shield. Brunhilde explains that this is his divine weapon, the 6-realm staff. Basically, his staff is like a divine Swiss army knife that holds the power of 6 guardians, and the form it takes depends on Buddha's emotions. Since the kid Zerofuku is giving off rebellious teen vibes, Buddha got so scared that the staff instantly turned into a shield. Zerofuku isn't amused and transforms his axe into a giant multi-bladed sword. In response, Buddha activates the animal realm, and his staff becomes the Nirvana club. He dodges the strikes and smacks Zerofuku with the club. Then comes a flashback. Buddha, born a prince, had it all, but despite being rich, loved, and a future king, he felt empty. It all clicked when his friend, King Jataka, died from an illness and questioned what the point of his life was. Buddha has an epiphany, throws his friend's coffin coffin into the river to find himself and abandons everything: his castle, family, and status. He becomes a rebel with a cause, declaring that true happiness comes from within, and then he hates anyone who tries to force a destiny onto others. Back in the fight, Zerofuku and Buddha continue to trade blows. The weapons change forms faster than your ex's mood. Buddha, with his foresight, gets the upper hand and manages to cut Zerofuku, who gets even more pissed. In the midst of the chaos, Buddha plays therapist and tells Zerofuku to love himself. The kid doesn't get it, but looking at Buddha, he realizes he just wanted to be loved like him. Zerofuku's axe loses its power and crumbles. Buddha tosses his weapon aside and challenges him to a fist fight. In the middle of the punches, Zerofuku realizes that Buddha understands him better than anyone and feels happy for the first time. He takes a right hook and falls, returning to his original form, smiling. But just when we think we're getting a happy ending, Zerofuku's horns pierce his own head. Two dragons erupt from his body, and he transforms into someone new: Hajun, the demon lord of the sixth heaven. And the worst part? Buddha can't predict his movements. A mysterious god philosophizes about how Zerofuku was the perfect soil for something to bloom. Meanwhile, in the stands, a new character makes an entrance: Hades, the ruler of the underworld. He unceremoniously kicks Ares out of his seat and reveals he's only there because he heard his brother Poseidon was killed. Zeus, impatient, wants to know who the new guy in the arena is. Hades explains the legend of Hajun, the boogeyman of Helheim, a creature born of light and shadow who destroyed half of the underworld and then vanished. No one knows how he appeared here. The fight begins, and Buddha immediately feels the pressure. His foresight doesn't work on Hajun. It's like trying to read the mind of a brick wall. Hajun has no light in his soul, so Buddha's power is useless. The demon takes advantage, transforms his arm into a drill, and gouges out Buddha's left eye. The scene is brutal. Hades theorizes that someone took a piece of Hajun's soul, turned it into seeds, and planted one in Zerofuku, and the prime suspect is none other than Beelzebub. Down in the arena, Hajun taunts Buddha, saying he devoured Zerofuku's soul and that the kid was just a snack. This makes Buddha's blood boil. The man who, until now, was in Zen mode, becomes possessed by rage. His emotion transforms the staff into a weapon he had long cast aside, a massive sinister scythe, the Salakayas. His entire aura changes, frightening even the gods. The two charge at each other with everything they've got. The scythe hits Hajun's arm, but the demon manages to pierce Buddha's stomach with his blade. Buddha smiles and lays it on the line. If the gods won't save humanity, he will, and any god who stands in his way will be killed. Buddha keeps pressing Hajun, who starts to feel something new: fear. The demon, who thought he was the big shot, is shaking in his boots. Seeing this, he rips off his own hand and transforms it into a sword, desperate not to lose. Hajun manages to break the scythe and shatter Buddha's staff. It looks like the end of the line, but as Buddha is about to be finished off, he has a vision and connects with Zerofuku's soul, which still exists within Hajun. It's the comeback no one saw coming. Buddha gets up and says Hajun is weak, a spoiled brat who has never faced his own flaws. A miracle happens. Zerofuku's soul performs a Volander with Buddha's broken weapon, creating the great Nirvana sword, Zero. And the best part? Since Hajun now feels fear, his soul begins to flicker, and Buddha's foresight starts working again. The turnaround is spectacular. Hajun attacks with all his might, thinking he has cut Buddha in half, but it was just an afterimage. Buddha appears behind him, and with his voice mixed with Zerofuku's, delivers the final blow. Hajun's body crumbles into pieces, turning to cosmic dust. Buddha has won. He bids farewell to the spirit of Zerofuku, who joins the other 7 lucky gods in the heavens. Exhausted and gravely injured, Buddha collapses right after giving a peace sign to Brunhilde. The post-fight drama begins immediately. Odin confronts Beelzebub, accusing him of interfering with Ragnarok. With the score tied 3-3, Hades announces that he will be the next to fight for the gods to avenge Poseidon. On humanity's side, Brunhilde already has her champion, a man known as the King of the Beginning, who makes his entrance by smashing through a wall.
Wherever we may tread, a road shall appear ahead.